Welcome. This Accela University video will cover the topic of the task dashboard. My name is Thomas Strauss, and I will cover the following information. First, we will look at both the card and list views to recognize how they work. Then I will review the information that is displayed on a task, and I will show you how the task actions work. And finally, I will show you how to optimize your experience by using task filters. Let's get started. When you open the Civic platform, you're going to see the task dashboard as your default homepage unless you've changed it to some other space or page. In either case, you can always open the task dashboard from wherever you are within the Civic platform by selecting the tile that's found at the top of the main menu on the left side of your page. That will open up your task dashboard. Now, the default view of task on the task dashboard would be with the card view, and that's what I'm displaying in my agency currently. So these are task cards, and this is your default view. There's also a list view as well, which we'll cover in a moment. So I have 7 tasks displaying, and that's what you would typically see is up to 7. If you have 7 or more, you'll see those displayed 7 at a time. Now, down at the lower right side of the screen, if I drop down a little bit, it says load more. And if you do have more than 7 tasks, load more would add up to another 7 tasks. So it's 7 at a time that are added. And if I go back up to the top left of my page, you can see that it says you have 7 tasks, and there's a refresh option. So as you're working through your task, you can always click on that refresh icon to refresh the page. May see some drop off and others pulled in. So that's the default view. Now, the cards that I'm seeing are currently, by default, tasks that are specifically assigned to me. So if within your agency, tasks are not assigned to you specifically, they're just assigned at, say, the department level with no specific individual indicated, then you wouldn't see any task cards here unless it's specifically assigned to you. You would need to use a filter to get to tasks that are assigned at, say, the department level. Now, I mentioned the alternative view. These are task cards. If I click over on the right, I have an icon for the card view, which is currently selected. Right next to it is an icon for the list view. So if you don't prefer the card view, you can always select that, toggle to the list view, and you'll see pretty much the same thing. Some differences, but you'll see it laid out in a list format. So you can see I've got the same task showing. There are 2 links for each task, which will be explained a little bit later, and you can see information displayed in a list view. Down at the bottom, there's again a button that says load more. So this would be the list view, gives much of the same information, and if you wanted to toggle back to the card view, you can use the icon on the right side of your page to do that. So these are your options for the task dashboard, is either a card view or a list view. The next thing we're going to look at will be the information that's displayed on a task. When you view a task card, you're going to notice that if you take your cursor and move it across the top of the task card, it will show you what type of task it is. I've got my cursor over this task on the left side of my screen. It's a routine inspection is the name of the task, and down at the bottom you can see that there's a label that says inspection. If I take my cursor and move it across the next one to the right, it tells me that's a workflow. The next one is also a workflow task. And each time you move your cursor over the top of the task, it will show you what type of task it is. Now, of course, you're most likely going to use filters to group and organize your task. Inspections would be grouped together. a workflow or plan review type task would be grouped together, and so on. So we'll talk about filters in a few moments, but as far as the information goes, you can see the type of task. When you put your cursor over the top of it, you can also probably tell that just from the name of the task. It says routine inspection, but that doesn't always give away the type. And you can see other information here for this inspection, for the date and time. You can see the location. It's a restaurant, North Beach Pizza. You can see the address. It's part of the environmental health food permit group. And notice at the top, there's routine inspection is a link, as well as there's a link at the bottom, and that is the record ID. So one important note to make here is that on all of your tasks, the top link will always take you directly to the task. The bottom link will take you to the record that the task is associated or belongs to. So if I wanted to review the record, I could navigate there from the link at the bottom, the actual record ID. If I want to just go directly to the task, I would use the top link. Now, the information that's displayed on an inspection is obviously different than that on a workflow task. So if I move to the one to the right, which is the plan review task, I can see this is a workflow task, and the kind of information here, I can see the due date for this particular plan review is December 3rd. It's also for South Beach Pizza. The workflow information, there's 5 total tasks. One's completed, one's currently active. It was assigned back on November 10th. And again, at the bottom is the link directly to that particular record. So bottom link takes me to the record, top link takes me just to the task. Now, other information you might see, and it's going to be different depending on the type of task, but if you notice, the task I'm highlighting in the middle of my page here is a workflow task, a reuse water check, and there's a little circle with an I, and it's blue colored. That indicates that there's a condition associated with this particular task or the record. And so I can tell this is a notice because it's blue colored. And if I were to navigate to this record by clicking the link at the bottom, it will open up the record, and I can see there's a blue banner at the top of this record that tells me that there's a notice that was added to the record, and I can see the details of that condition. Now, in some cases, when you're looking at your task card, this actually may be a red-orange color if, say, it were a lock that were applied to the record. So what you're seeing there will be various conditions that may have been applied to the record that the task belongs to. Now, a little bit more information to cover that you can see on your task card, and that is, you'll notice in the upper right corner is the ellipsis symbol, the 3 dots, and if you click on it, it opens up, and for an inspection, it gives me some actions I can take, such as cancel, delete, reschedule, result. It tells me the type of permit, an environmental health food retail food facility permit. For workflow, I get different actions. And I can see the applicant, I can see it's a food facility plan check. So that's where you can get actions, but you can also see a little bit of additional information here as well. Now let's compare this with what you get with the list view. So over on the right, I'll toggle over to the list view, and you get much the same information, but here things are a little different. For example, this workflow here for plan review, the second one in my list, I don't see any information about there being 5 workflow tasks, 1 completed, 1 active, that I saw on the task card. So there is a little bit of difference in what information is displayed. Now, what about the actions? Well, you can get to the actions for a given task in your list view by putting a check in the box next to it. And then if you go over to the right, you'll see there's an actions drop down. And if you click on that, that's where you can access some of the actions that are applicable for that type of task. Now, the actions are different depending on the tasks that you've selected. So this was a workflow task. If I unselect that and choose to select the inspection task, the first one, now my actions are different. They're applicable to an inspection as opposed to a workflow task. Now, as far as conditions go, as I scan down this list, I can see the little I here. There's a condition that's been applied to this particular task or record, and then down below another one with the same thing, another inspection that has a notice that's been applied. So that's what you see if you're looking at it from the list view, and that's the level of information you can see. You've got your due dates, statuses, application name, details such as address or who it's assigned to. Other kind of details like that could be displayed there. And if I toggle back to the card view, you get a lot of the same information, but there are some differences, and that's something you should be aware of. Next, let's take a look at the actions that you can take with a task. So there are several actions that you can take with a task card, or in the list view the same as well. So first, notice at the top of this inspection, if I wanted to open up the task itself because I'm ready to change the status or add notes, I can click right on that link. And so when I click on that, it opens up the inspection in this case, and I can see my inspection detail. I could go to my checklist or documents and attachments, and I can see that here. I can access my results to change that or update that. If I want to close that, I decide that I'm not ready to update that result, I can always go to the tile that was created in the left main menu and click close. Now I'm back on my task dashboard. If I want to go directly to the record, I can click the bottom link. And when I click on that, it takes me to the record. So if I want to close that, again, I can use the tile that was created on the left in the main menu and close that. So those are a couple of actions to navigate directly to a task. Now, one thing I'll mention that's a little different from an inspection task to a workflow task is that, let's say I am getting ready to take on this plan review for this workflow task, and I click the top link, plan review. It opens the task up similar to what you would see if you went directly to the workflow. And here I have my status drop down. I can make changes here. I could reassign it by clicking the assign button if I needed to. Or let's say at this point I determine that, I actually want to look at the record. There's information I want to see. Here you could go down to your tile on the main menu and close it just like with the inspection. Or you could also use the cancel option. And if you click cancel, it would open the record that the task is associated to, and I can see it takes me right to the workflow to plan review. And I can navigate to documents or custom fields or other information I want to review, and then come back to workflow and update the status on that particular task. So with workflow, you can always use the top link to get to either the task directly, or you can also get there, get to the record from the top link as well by clicking cancel, and that will open the record. All right, so the same as discussed with the other task, the lower link will take you directly to the record. Now, as far as the other actions go, let's take a look at the inspection. If I click on the ellipsis symbol, it gives me several actions that I can take that are appropriate for an inspection. One of them is reschedule. So let's say that's what I intend to do. I click on reschedule. I get a slide out that opens up and allows me to access reschedule options. If I don't wish to do that, I can click anywhere else outside of that slide out, and it takes me back to my view of the task dashboard. Now on this workflow task, when I click on the ellipsis, I get several options here, such as assign, claim, and release. And these pertain to the ability of a user to assign or reassign this task. So remember, on this task dashboard, the default filter shows me all the tasks that are specifically assigned to me. So when I click on Plan Review, notice that it says assigned to Department Environmental Health Administration, assigned to, and it shows my name, Thomas Strauss. It's assigned to me. If I were to cancel this and go to the workflow task, you'll notice that the workflow task itself says Plan Review assigned Thomas Strauss. You will only see a name here if it's actually assigned to someone. If it's assigned at the department level, and my department is Environmental Health Administration, but not to me specifically, there would be nothing here. So that's important to understand, is all of these tasks have my name associated with it. If I wanted to take my name off of a task, I can use the ellipsis and I can release. And that takes my name off the task and puts it back in the queue with just the department level assignments. So it'd be assigned to my department, but not to me. So that would also remove it from this view of my task dashboard because it would no longer fit the criteria. So I'm going to choose release, and I get a green success banner at the top that appears. My task dashboard updated, and that Plan Review task is no longer showing here because it's no longer assigned specifically to me. So if I go to my filters here, and I use one here for my department unassigned, now I see that Plan Review task has been moved under this filter because it no longer has my name specifically associated with it. If I click on it, you can see that it's now showing assigned to Department Environmental Health Administration, assigned to, and there's no name there. So that is how the action of release would work. Now, what if I claim a task? You can claim a task that has not already been claimed, or even if there is someone else's name on it, it will remove their name and put your name there. And this is, when you claim and you release, this is for organizational purposes, so that others will know who's currently working a task. So in this case, I can see my filter, my department unassigned. I want to take this task and put my name on it so others know that I'm working this particular plan review. So I use the ellipsis, I claim it, I get the success message at the top. It's no longer showing in this particular filter. And if I go back to my default view, I can see that Plan Review is now showing here because it has my name on it, and that's because I claimed it. Assigning is if you are, let's say, a workload manager and you want to assign a task to a plan and a user and submit that after choosing the user, and that would assign it to that person. You can use workflow calendars if those have been set up, set a due date, and there could possibly in your agency's configuration be other options there as well. So I'm not going to do that at this time, but those are the actions that you see here for workflow, and then relevant actions for an inspection. And you'll see the same thing for other types of tasks like document review or meetings or activities. Now, if I switch to the list view, as shown before, to see what your actions are, you put a check next to the task, and then in your actions menu, you'll see appropriate actions that can be taken. If I switch to the plan review, my actions change: assign, claim, release. So it would work the same way as what you saw with the card view. The way that you get to your actions is a little different, though, in the list view. So the next thing that we're going to look at is how to work with filters to increase and optimize your efficiency when working with tasks. Now, as explained earlier, the task dashboard has a default system-wide filter that will show just the tasks that are assigned specifically to you. That can be changed, and you could set a different default filter. Maybe the way your agency works is that you assign tasks at the department level, and then different users select task, claim those, and work that particular task. And you don't utilize direct assignments to individuals. If that's the case, you could always change your default filter so that you would see tasks grouped as you need them. Over on the right side of the screen, next to the filter drop-down, I have a filter drop-down where I've got a number of filters here that group tasks in relevant ways based on what I need for my job. I have a search where I could start typing in. So I put in UN and it pulls up my filter for my department unassigned. And so you can use that to quickly get to a filter. And this is helpful for some agencies where you may have quite a few filters listed. So I can access my filters there. Also, right next to it, there's a little icon that if you click on that, it's going to open up the task management page where you may have certain filters that have been set up there that you could set as your default. So if you want a default here, you can click on that icon and it will open up and show a list of filters that have been created. Now this is something your system administrator could do. In this case, let's say I wanted to see as my default my department unassigned. I don't want to see the tasks that are assigned specifically to me as my default. So I click on this filter and it opens up to show me the criteria used. And in the upper left corner, there's a button that says primary. If I want to make this my primary filter, I can select primary and that will save it as my default filter. You can, of course, only have one default filter at a time. So I'm not going to set this, but this is where you could do that if you wanted to create and designate a certain filter as your default. So some other things to note about working with the filters. Any filters that you have here are going to be set up by your administrator. You do have the ability to create your own filters, and that's done in the My Task area, and there's another video that will cover that. But here you can access filters in different ways. So right now I'm seeing all of the tasks that are assigned specifically to me. I can go down through here. There's food facility inspections. There's my department unassigned. I'll try that. So these particular tasks are assigned to my department, but not assigned to a specific individual. So maybe part of your job is to access unassigned tasks of a certain type and use the actions to, say, assign as part of your workload management responsibilities. So your filters can be set up here, and those can be created by your system administrator, which is what we typically recommend. Or you could create your own from the My Task area. So I'll quickly show that. There's another video on this, but My Task is where you could create a saved search, which then becomes available here in this drop down as well. But you would be the only one to see that filter if you create it yourself. If your administrator creates it, that can be set up at the group level. So others in your department or your group will have access to that filter as well. So filtering is really the key to organizing your task in a way that's relevant for your job, that helps with efficiency. And if I switch to the list view, you get the same thing. You get the filter option here. but you also have the option for the actions drop down depending on which type of task you've selected. So that's it for the task dashboard. In this video, I covered the task card and list views. I also reviewed the displayed task information, and I showed you how to work with the task actions. Finally, I explained the use of filters in order to organize and streamline your work. I hope you found the information helpful. Thank you for watching.